Eshani, aka Total Makeup Junkie 101, and welcome back to Holiday Hoopla on my channel. Today we are going to be talking about one of the most exciting holiday releases, at least in my opinion. It is the new Kat Von D Metal Matte Eyeshadow Palette. Honestly, I'm always excited about Kat Von D's holiday releases. I'm excited about Kat Von D releases in general. Her holiday releases are usually really amazing, and this palette is no exception. First off, this is what the box of the Metal Matte palette looks like. It does have all of the shadows you get inside written on the back of the box. And then this is what the actual palette looks like. I love Kat Von D's artwork. I have a major girl crush on Kat Von D and especially her artistry. And this palette is amazing because if you look at it, you can read the word metal. And then if you flip it upside down, you guys can read the word matte. This is probably the trippiest thing I've seen in a really long time. And I literally kept doing this to my palette for about 4 minutes because I was just, it's so trippy. Anyways, the palette itself is a really sturdy cardboard. The back of the palette does have all of the shade names written, and the inside of the palette also has all of the shade names written. You get a really nice large mirror on top, and these are the colors in the palette itself. This palette retails for $60, which is one of the more expensive holiday releases, but I'm gonna just say this here and now. This is probably the best, most exciting holiday release of this year. Last year's Kat Von D palette was amazing as well, and this one just, I've never experienced an eyeshadow palette, at least in the past year or so, that has this amount of variety, this incredible quality, and the amount of product you get for the price is amazing. So as always in this review video, I will go through everything. I will talk about all of the colors. I'll show you guys full palette swatches. I will talk about the texture of the shadows, the color selection, and at the end, I will do my little nerdy geek out where I will tell you guys the amount of product you get in this palette versus something like her Shade and Light eye palettes, and basically give you a price breakdown. First and foremost, let me just show you guys the actual colors you're getting in this palette. You can see you're getting an amazing color variety. The top pans of round shadows are all of her metal finishes, and then these square or rectangular pans at the bottom are her mattes. You are getting 9 of her metal shadows and 13 mattes, which gives you 22 colors total in this palette. So before I talk about the quality of the shadows, I'm gonna go ahead and just let the swatches do the talking for themselves. I'm gonna go ahead and swatch all of the metals next to each other so you can see what we get. From left to right, we have Nebula, Watt, Ignite, Tinsel, Glitz, Twinkle, Volt, Synergy, and Flash. There's not a single color in this row that is a dud. Every single color performs absolutely amazingly. The fourth color in Tinsel is the only shade that has some chunky glitter particles in it. Now for the matte swatches, I am gonna go ahead and break it up into kind of the first half of the matte row and then the second half. So here we have the first 7 colors. From left to right, we have Linen, Jet, Velour, Stone, Moss, Ribbon, and Silk. This is definitely going to be the cooler portion of the palette, some more of the brighter colors like that cobalt, and you get a perfect matte white and matte black, and every single color in this palette is amazing. Here we have the second half of the matte row. From left to right, we have Fringe, Feather, Oak, Suede, Bone, and Velvet. This is definitely going to be a little bit more of the neutral side of the mattes, but once again, every single color performs amazingly. Honestly, this palette is probably the most consistent, amazing quality palette I've tried in a long time. In terms of the metals, the formula is so silky smooth. It does very much remind me of the Kat Von D Metal Crush shadows that come in the singles. I will say these maybe aren't quite as dense as those, but this metallic formula is really easy to pick up with a stiff brush. The color payoff is excellent. Like I told you, only Tinsel, which is this shade here, has some chunky glitter, but despite that color being a little chunky, it still does have a really nice amount of color payoff. It's not just like a loose silver shimmer in no base. That color will still benefit from a slightly stickier primer used underneath, or if you just used it with your finger and just kind of patted it on, I feel like that's how you would get the best color payout. In terms of the mattes in this palette, the texture is amazing. It is so silky, smooth, soft. They can kick up a little bit of extra powder if you kind of dig your brush into them. You really don't need to dig your brush into these at all. A little tap of your brush will pick up plenty of color to go a long way. I didn't really experience any fallout while using this palette, which I was really shocked about, especially with the metallics. I really love the diversity of this palette. I mean, on the whole, it's definitely a cool toned palette. There are those blues, greens, purples. There's not a lot of like orangey type tones, but I actually kind of like that because we've seen so many warm tone palettes recently. There are plenty of palettes that give you, you know, reds and earthy kind of rusty colors, and this is just something different. I think Kat Von D has done it again. I love this palette. I am so happy I picked it up. This is probably going to be my #1 holiday palette recommendation. I've purchased a lot of other palettes. You guys will continue seeing holiday palette videos on my channel, and you'll see that honestly, nothing compares to this. Now that I raved about the formula of the product, I did want to go ahead and kind of geek out a little bit and talk about the amount of product you're getting. I probably should have said this at the beginning of the video, but when I received this palette in the mail, I hadn't seen any other reviews or anything on it yet. I was shocked by the size of this. I mean, this is one gigantic palette, and I will go ahead and just hold it up next to her Shade and Light eye palette so you guys can see how much longer it is. It's pretty much the same height and width, it's just significantly longer, and it's got some really nice weight to it. As I mentioned, this palette retails for $60, and it does have 22 shadows inside. Each of the shadows holds 1.7 grams of product. That is a lot of product. That's even bigger than an individual MAC shadow. There are 37.4 grams of product in this palette total, which breaks down to $1.60 per gram of shadow. Comparing that to something like the Shade and Light eye palette, this palette retails for $46. If you guys know the layout of any of her kind of typical cardboard palettes like this, you are getting 12 shades total. 3 of the shades are larger pans and 9 of the shades are smaller. The 3 larger pans hold 2.27 grams and the smaller pans hold 1.13 grams, meaning that there are 16.98 grams total in this palette, making the shadows $2.70 per gram in this palette. $2.70 per gram versus $1.60 per gram. This is an amazing deal. If nothing else, I will tell you the amount you're getting, the quality of what you're getting, even compared to other Kat Von D palettes, this is a steal. The one negative thing I could say, which isn't really negative, but I just wanted to point it out, I wouldn't necessarily think this is the best travel-friendly palette because it is so large and long, but there's no wasted space in the palette. It's big because you get a lot of product. So I'm not complaining at all. I love it. I highly recommend it. So that is it for this video. Thank you guys so much for watching. If you guys haven't checked out any of my other holiday hoopla videos, I will link my playlist in the description box down below. Don't forget to check it out. Thank you guys so much for watching, and I will talk to you guys in my next video on Saturday. I will see you then. Bye! This is literally your ultimate naked basics matte palette, anything that you can pull in. Have a nice variety of brands, some more smaller or newer brands to Sephora or something you may